All right, welcome back to Second Take with myself and John Kerry, and today we're joined by ex-NFL corner Cris Dishman. Chris played in the late 80s and 90s, I believe. He played in the 80s in college, and then the late 80s, 90s, and he had one season in 2000 with the Minnesota Vikings. He attended St. Francis de Sales High School, was a two-time All-State football player there, one-time All-State at Purdue, where he went to college in 1987. Two-time Pro Bowler, one-time first-team All-Pro. Finished his career with 43 picks, 15 forced fumbles, and 3 touchdowns. And I think the first thing I'm going to start with is I researched and found that you were franchise tagged in 1996. So obviously the franchise tag, everything ended today. Myself, I run the Instagram page for this, so like I was going crazy today with all the news. But there's been a lot of speculation as to, is the franchise tag fair to players? Is it something that they feel is fair? So when you were franchise tagged in '96, right before the Oilers moved to Nashville, how was that? And do you think the franchise tag is fair to players? Do you think that's something they should keep?
Well, first of all, let me say I'm very grateful that the Oilers did franchise tag me. That's what they thought of me as a person and as a player. But I also was wanting to test the open market. If you can
Mm-hmm.
test the open market and you believe in your skills and know that your skills at a high rate, then you can get more money than a franchise tag.
Right.
You can get a longer
Exactly.
contract.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about the length
Mm,
of your contract and your upfront money. Whereas you get
Right.
mm,
franchise tag, yes, you get the average of the top five. But if you're a good corner and you get making the top five anyway, that average is just not that big of a raise to you.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
it's only God only bring you around in a lifetime of where you can be able to set your own measures to yourself and measures to other people. And at that point of my career, I was able to say, no, which team I want to play for and how much money I want to play for.
Right.
And then getting franchise tags
Mm,
kind of took that away from me.
Right.
yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's kind of what I think a lot of people are thinking right now with Allen Robinson and the Bears. Just like, obviously the guy, he's a proven star. Any number of teams would be happy to have him and pay him a lot of money over a long period of time. And instead he's trapped, seemingly trapped in Chicago. Whether they trade him or not is a whole nother discussion. But yeah, I think it's definitely interesting. I picked that up today while I was doing some research, and just thought it was something that we could tag along. So I wanted to ask you first, at kind of the start of your football journey. You played at St. Francis, and you were actually a wide receiver, I believe, entering college.
Yes, I was. I played at DeSales High School there in Louisville, Kentucky. And I was, like I said, I was a wide receiver all my years there at DeSales. And then when I got to Purdue, they switched me to defensive back. So I never played
Yeah.
one snap on West Lafayette campus as a receiver. The first, the
Yeah.
first, the first meeting, they had the offense. They said, offense sit here in the room, and the defense come to the other room. So as they were sitting having the meeting, I was sitting in. I stay seated. My defensive back coach at the time, Ron Mims, kept calling my name, and I couldn't figure out why he was calling my name. Me, I'm thinking it must be two Dishmans in the room. I'm like, oh, it must be another Dishman in the room because I'm a receiver.
Mhm.
I'm not a defensive back. And he came up and tugged me on my shoulder, said, Dishman, don't you hear me calling you? I said, Coach, you're a defensive coach. I'm offense. He said, not now. You're defense. And I went over there um, and I was very, they didn't have the transfer portal as they do now.
Mhm.
Right.
So of course I call home to my mom and dad, very mad, upset that I am now getting switched to this thing what they call defensive back and not being a
Right.
receiver. Because I always thought that I was going to catch the ball and run for touchdowns and stuff like that. But to make a long story short, yes, I got switched over to receiver. I was fortunate to sit in a great seat, and I think this will help my DB drills. I mean, DB confidence because Rod Woodson was sitting to my left of me, so I was able to sit I picked the right seat to sit in, you know. So,
Yeah.
and he reached over and hit me and said, "Hey, man, I know you got switched over, but I can teach you. You'll be all right." And from that point on, I guess people saw something in me that I did not see in myself, and that's where I think where people need to have more confidence in their own ability to be able to make that switch and do the things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
For sure. That coach
I
made a great decision there.
yeah,
You know,
absolutely,
you
absolutely,
got this great
absolutely.
NFL career under your belt now. Like
What?
he knew what he was talking about.
Right,
Well, yes,
yeah.
they did. You know, like I said, I was fortunate to play 13 years in NFL, all at defense, all at corner. You know, I think everything happened for a reason. God put me in that situation to be able to handle the switching over. He
Mhm.
kept the seat open where I could sit next to the Hall of Famer Rod Woodson. You know what I'm saying? So that was a blessing. And you know, we just played man to man. And me getting drafted by the Oilers was also a blessing because they played the same style defense we did in college. We played bump and run in college, man to man, and no safety help, and cover that guy on the right or cover that guy on the left. And getting drafted by the Houston Oilers, having such a great defensive back coach with Nick Saban, they
Mm,
laid a solid foundation for me, and I was able to prosper. You know,
yeah.
like I said, I've been very fortunate to have some very good defensive back coaches throughout my career.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome, and I think it's interesting. You pointed out that the transfer portal wasn't a thing back then, and who even knows if you would have had that long, fantastic NFL career under your belt had you just been like, oh, screw this, I'm gonna go somewhere else and play football. Um, who who even knows if that would have happened had you stayed a receiver?
Yeah.
Obviously, you have plenty of accolades, 43 picks. You were on the first team All Pro in 1991, which many regard as your best season. I feel like a lot of times what the media and outside sources regard as a best season isn't necessarily what the players regard as a best season. So what would you say? Would you agree? Would you say 1991 was your best season, or what would you say your best season was?
Stat wise, I said yes. As far as stat wise, I say it was my best season.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
the following 2 years, I thought was my best season because um, I didn't get many balls my way. 92
Right.
and 93, and from the years on that, I didn't get too many balls thrown my way. So I felt like that was my best season because of the respect factor that I got from
Mhm.
the offensive coordinators. You know,
Yeah.
a lot of times everybody want to have corners picked that, oh, you got so many interceptions. But if you don't have that much opportunity to make the interception or the ball's not coming your way, you're not going to get as many interceptions. You know, so I think the last 2 years was I felt was more of a groove where I really learned position. I learned how to study the receivers. I learned how to study the
Mhm.
quarterbacks. I I really threw myself into my professional. I became a professional, not a pro. You know, once you get drafted,
Yeah.
you're automatically a pro. The
Yeah,
longer you
yeah,
stay in the
absolutely.
game, you become professional. So therefore, you understand how to stay in the game.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's
I
a
can.
key to it, you know. You
Right,
gotta just
exactly.
stay in there, and then after those seasons, just you had those, regarded as three great seasons. You kept going. You had more good seasons. I would say your year in Kansas City was a great season. I thought that was a good season in my opinion. You had a lot of great seasons. Your career is overall outstanding. Um, it's just that confidence you see in young guys like Jair Alexander for the Packers. Not a lot of balls thrown his way, and it's just that feeling of, oh, I've got this respect from these coordinators who are like, okay, don't throw it his way, and it's just that feeling of like confidence. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's going with anything in life. You got to have confidence. You got to believe in yourself. You know, if you're sitting at any type of job, no matter if it's the best cook in the world, you got to believe that your food tastes better than
Mhm.
anybody else's in the world. You know, and that's that confidence that will spill over not only to your teammates but to the other side too. You know, and And that's why I used to talk. Everybody's like, always talk about trash. I used to talk a lot to the receivers and to the offensive coordinators because I try to play that reverse psychology that if I talk to you and make you so mad at me, then you're gonna throw the ball my way. So sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't work. So that's why I used to talk so much trash, and people just thought I was being AWS to them, but I wasn't. I was just trying to get some action my way.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, trash talk is such a vital part to this game. And playing alongside Rod Woodson, I'd imagine you got some good trash talking tips from a guy that used to let him hear it when he was playing. I wanted to ask, kind of have you elaborate a little bit more on playing with guys like Rod Woodson for a little while and playing with Darrell Green. And I believe your time in Houston overlapped with Warren Moon.
Yes, it did. Excuse me. First of all, with Rod was always professional. He knows so much about the game. His knowledge at a young age in college of knowing and how to study different techniques and stuff like that is still carried on through the game today. So he is a true Hall of Famer, if not one.
Right.
Warren Moon playing against Warren Moon in practice all these years actually made me a better player because I used to sit and talk to Warren. It's like, what am I doing wrong? What is the tips you see? How can I improve? What should I be looking at in the quarterback? And he gave me a lot of tips of what offensively that can help me defensively. So it was great to be around him all the years of picking his brain, understanding what is the offense looking for, you know. But Darrell Green is such a charm. Was such a charm to be able to play with. I played 2 years with D Green, and you talking about a guy who don't get tired. He is a constant what's that, bunny, ever bunny or whatever. He's just constantly going. He doesn't get tired. Quick story about Darrell Green. We're sitting at training table one day, a chow hall, after practice. That's when 2 days was 2 days. You go out in the morning and practice, you go in to eat, go to meetings, come back and practice again. But Darrell always ran a mile after practice. This particular day, he forgot to run his mile, so he got up from eating, ran outside, ran his mile, and came back to eat. You know, who do that? You know, it's the guy that had so much energy. You know, it was just like, dude, I'm tired. But yet still, he just never lost energy. And that's why he was able to play 20 plus years, because he kept his body in such great shape. You know, he wasn't the biggest defensive back, and he wasn't the most ripped defensive back, but his body was always in shape. And he always blamed it on Tootsie Rolls. He said Tootsie Rolls was what kept him in shape.
That's a great story. So you had the 1 year, I can't remember how many it was, but it was like 3 or 4 forced fumbles. Something that just doesn't happen for defensive backs. Was that something that you like practiced before that season where you're like, oh, I'm just gonna punch it? Like anytime I see the ball, I'm gonna punch the ball out. Or did that just kind of happen in the game? Like you'd be tackling guys and you'd be like, oh look, I punched the ball out.
Well, my defensive back coach at the time, I think, was Pat Thomas. You know, Pat played with the Rams. I was very fortunate. I had some great defensive back coaches. First of all, like I said, Nick Saban gave me a great foundation. Had Pat Thomas, Rod Perry, you know, Tom Bettis, you know, Ron Zook in Kansas City. You know, I just had some great defensive back coaches. At the time, I think it was Pat Thomas who played, and both Pat Thomas and Rod Perry both played with the LA Rams at the time. They both was a right and left corner. So Pat was always used to tell me that I'm not using all my skills. And I couldn't understand what he was talking about. He was like, a defensive back not only catches the ball in the air, they make fumbles, they fumble recovery. So he was teaching me how to punch the ball. And who made it so famous now is Charles Tillman made it so famous. He has a knack of doing that, good hand-eye coordination of doing that. And Pat Thomas taught me how to put my eye on the ball, punch the ball, because when guys, receivers and running backs want to get tackled, they hold the ball so loose until they get hit. Once they get hit, it's too late. They tense up, where their body tense and make the grip stronger. So he was saying go after the ball before you hit them, and that way it's still hanging loose. So I have to give the credit to Pat Thomas for teaching me how to do that, and I just took it from there.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that's awesome. John, you got any questions before I give him another one?
Quick question about you were talking about Nick Saban was he, now he's regarded as, one of the best college football coaches, in the country right now, probably the best. Did he have was he just a great leader and coach, or did he just have the knowledge, or was it a combination of both? Like, what was the big thing for him that made him this great coach?
It's a combination of both of them. Nick had a way of motivating you to believe in yourself more than you should. He had a good motivational factor because he always used to tell me that if I believe in you more than you believe in yourself, then that's a problem. And that's what his biggest motivation was. You should believe in yourself more than anything. And his expectation wasn't for you just to knock the ball down. His expectation was for you to intercept the ball. His expectations was for you to run the ball back for a touchdown. And he always said, if you do not have those expectations like that, to be the greatest, to be the best, then you're in the wrong business. Like I said, he's a great foundation coach. The drills that I do now with my guys here at IMG, I got from Coach Saban. I still do them. So he was a heck of a motivator. He was a guy that will love you off the field, but he will coach you hard on the field.
Mm-hmm.
And as a player, you have to respect that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We talk about Coach Saban. You've done your own coaching. Seemingly every football league under the sun, as I found a little while ago. The Berlin Thunder, Menlo College twice, the Chargers, the Baylor Bears, the Montreal Alouettes, and most recently the New York Guardians. So, coaching, obviously you enjoy coaching, or else that would not be all these teams would not be the case. But what would you say some of your favorite players that you got to work with through coaching, and some of your favorite people that you got to work with? Who would those people be?
Oh, well, out of 16 years of coaching, I've had some great defensive backs. I have some players who can really go in and get it. At Menlo College, I had some guys that every defensive back group is different. At Menlo College, I had some guys who wasn't as fast and wasn't as talented, but they was very smart. They knew how to get to places where other people couldn't get to. Then in San Diego, I had guys like Eric Weddle, Antonio Cromartie.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys like that who was so talented that they could pretty much do what you ask them to do. Antonio Cromartie is probably have the best hand-eye coordination in any DB I've ever seen. He's such a talented individual. He was long, fast. He can do approximately anything you want him to do. Dunk a basketball, dunk anything. He's just such a great athlete.
Yeah.
Then moving on, to the XFL, had Draven Askew Henry, who was a good player, AJ Hindy, Wes Sutton. I just had a slew of guys that just was great players. At Baylor, had Orion Stewart, who was just a good ball hawk, had good range as a safety. So when you have good players, they make you be a good coach. I know Phil Jackson was a great coach, but Phil Jackson also had Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan. So when you have great players, your coaching ability somehow become great.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, for sure. Coaching in Canada, I thought it was interesting to see that you did that, because playing defensive back in Canada is such a different game because of all the different things that are happening. So how the hell do you even teach people for those 5-6 different things that could happen on any given play?
Well, that was very challenging, but was fun. That's probably one of the most fun time I had as far as coaching defensive backs, because every week they have some type of motion that you had to get ahead of and had to teach. Hey, they may cross motion, they may fake cross motion and come back to the side. So, but that was challenging to me as a person, as a coach, because I had to learn new stuff. Had to learn new rules. You know, I had to learn that third down was punting and not just going for it. You know, and learn to realize that the special teams guy was calling for the punt team on second down. You know, and that there was the receivers. Even though I was telling the ref they're offsides, the ref finally told me after about 10 times tell them in the game they're offsides, they're offsides. He said, hey, they can have 1 year off the ball. They can have 1 year offsides before they offsides. Well, where is that in the rule book? You know what I'm saying? So it's things like that that I've learned very quickly. And everybody knew that I was a rookie up there in Canadian football, because I kept saying that. And then the special teams coach, every time he yelled for punt team on second down, I'm like, why are you yelling for the punt team? This is only 3 downs. This is only 3 downs. I'm like, darn it, it is. I just, so that was very challenging for me doing that, but it also was very rewarding for me to learn how to stop the motion. And some of the stuff I learned up there, stopping someone coming in motion, I brought it back down here, and I think it made me better as a coach.
Yeah, for sure. I noticed you're coaching at IMG Academy, considered one of the best high school teams in the country. This year, I think they were the best high school football team in the country. You've got great players, great young players in there, getting offers left and right. And, you see these guys, and how much is there, that it's just natural, and how much is it just like grinding out the coaching and everything, getting every little thing done perfectly for them?
Well, it's both. You have to have the natural skills first and foremost. We all know that.
Yeah.
But they also have to have the technique. They also have to have the mental part of football. And with their natural skills and me mentally getting them ready, me physically teaching them the technique, all these guys got a great future ahead of them. They got a very good future ahead of them. So it's 50-50. You have the physical skills, then you have the mental and the technique side of it. So if both things mesh well, then they can go on to a long future. The only thing I want to give these guys is what my coaches gave me: the Nick Sabans, the Pat Thomas, the Rod Perrys, the Tom Bettis, the Ron Zooks of the world. So what they gave me of the learning tools and different stuff that I learned from each coach, I'm just trying to instill what they gave me into these guys, and hopefully they can have such a longer career than I did, not only in college but in the pros.
Yeah, right. Give them the shots that you were given, for sure, man.
Right.
For sure. We got about 10 minutes left. So I'm sure you knew that you couldn't get out of this without us asking you about the infamous Monday Night Miracle. You were the corner, unfortunately, on the other side of said miracle as Antonio Freeman got up and ran the ball. Brett Favre almost threw yet another game-sealing interception. He was very good at that. So kind of take us through that play a little bit, and what exactly happened.
Well, that play, like I said, like we talked before, we went on air, that my hats off to Antonio Freeman. He did what he exactly supposed to do. He kept the play alive. So that was a great play by him. But that was one of these plays that's only going to happen once in a lifetime. I don't think you guys are going to ever see a play like that again. Something like that happen again. I was just unfortunate to be on the wrong side of it, that I ended up missing the interception, went down my back into his hands. But it was my fault for not catching the interception, first and foremost, and number two, for not finishing the play. And that one incident, as my coaching career continues to grow, I always show guys that play. And they were like, "Oh, you got mulch, you got burnt." I said, "No, I didn't get burned. The moral of the story is I didn't finish.
Right.
And you have to finish everything you do, not only in life, but on the game too. So
Right.
I use that as a teaching tool. So it's unfortunate, but it's fortunate. God makes everything happen for a reason. That happened for a reason at that moment. Now I can use it at this moment to use it as a learning tool for my players that you have to finish life. You have to finish the game of
Yeah,
football.
you gotta
You
finish.
have to
Absolutely.
finish when you start. And I just didn't finish the situation at that time. Now, credit to the person who did finish, Antonio Freeman, because he did what he's supposed to do, but I didn't. So I use it as a learning tool, but like I said, I don't mind getting teased about it from the guys. They telling me I got lost and that was sorry and all that other stuff. As
Yeah.
long as I can help one or two people out of that situation and never be in that situation again, I think I've done my job.
Yeah, I had
Yeah.
that. I was doing like research. I was finding where you went to high school and all the facts and
Yeah,
stats, and I was like, "Holy shit, it's that guy!"
yeah, I'm that guy.
I had that moment of
And
that,
which,
but then obviously I did more research, and you had yourself an absolutely fantastic career, including the Pro Bowl. We only have a few minutes left, but that's the last thing I wanted to ask you about going to the Pro Bowl. I've heard so many different stories from people around the league, whether it be McAfee doing whatever storytelling he does on his show, or guys like Peyton Manning talking about the Pro Bowl. Was it fun? Did you have fun? Was the game fun? Did you meet some new people, some NFL legends there? How was the Pro Bowl?
the Pro Bowl is great. You can meet the best of the best. You can talk to some guys that you never really get a chance to talk to. You can see them with their family. You can see them ask them questions. You know, ask Jerry Rice, what do you feel about this release? Why would you do something like this? Or why you did this? You know, talk to guys like a Rod. Well, me and Rod have been friends for years, but talk to a guy like a Joe Green at the Pro Bowl. Finally end up playing with him. In '97, both Daryl and I both '96. It was '96 or '97, one of those years. Daryl and I both went to the Pro Bowl. So it was having moments like that with guys that you can talk to. Being over there with your Bruce Mills and talk to him about the game of football, why they're doing this, and how their organization. And it's a lot of recruiting going along too. It's a lot of recruiting over there at the Pro Bowl because guys know who's up, guys know who's free agents. So
For sure.
it's fun times, it's good. There's also a lot of recruiting of trying to get the best player on your team.
Yeah, for sure. John, before we wrap up, you got anything else?
No, I'm good. This was awesome. Thank you so much for coming on.
Well, thank you guys. If you guys could I have a couple of organizations I'm involved with goatskills.com. It's one of the organizations that I do, and we change our numbers, and Health Beat is three of the Safety. I'm thinking about something else. Safe Beat is one of the other organizations I'm involved with. So I just want to plug those things in and have people go to goatskills.com, and my Twitter name is Dishman_Chris. So thank you guys for having me. I appreciate you guys, and anything I can do to help you, let me know.
Yeah, awesome, man. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for tuning into Second Take, guys, and we will see you guys next time.